What's up, everybody? I'm here doing a commentary. In fact, I'm going to be doing a few commentaries over the next few videos. I'm going to be doing commentary over the Three Stooges. I'll be doing Disorder in the Court, Bride of the Scrooms, and Malice in the Palace. And the reason why I'm doing commentaries this week is because I'm very busy getting ready for a convention this week. I'm packing up a lot of equipment, and it's not a lot of time, but I still wanted to do something that was fun, and I thought it would be really fun to do commentary on my favorite comic trio, the Three Stooges. Now, this was done in 1935. The Stooges had been with Columbia for about a year up to that point. They had signed a 7-year contract after Columbia's president, Harry Cohn, was very impressed with Stooges' first two shorts, which was Woman Haters and Punch Drunks. They signed a 7-year contract, but there was a clause in that contract that didn't work to the Stooges' favor, and that was a yearly option, which meant that even though they were signed to 7 years, Columbia had the option to end the contract early on the yearly options. So that was kind of sad for the Stooges, especially with a president like Harry Cohn, because Harry Cohn was known for being the most underhanded studio head in the business. He used a lot of scare tactics to scare his employees, and with this, it was a scare tactic to keep the Stooges from asking for more money. The Stooges were unaware on how popular they really were, because Harry Cohn kept that from them. They would be told each year after their contract was getting ready for the yearly option that the short subjects department was in decline, which wasn't a total lie, but still the Stooges were so insanely popular and were making a lot of money for Columbia. But, you know, Harry Cohn's thing was that, you know, he didn't know whether or not he would want to renew the Stooges' contract, even though he really did. So he would use that to keep the Stooges from asking for more money, and they made the same salary from the very moment they signed the first contract with Columbia until their last year with Columbia. And it was really sad for them. And a lot of people wondered why the Stooges were so unaware of their popularity. And the reason being is because box office numbers were only revealed to the main executives at studios at the time. They weren't publicly revealed like they are now. So really only studio heads and studio executives knew box office numbers. You know, even the actors themselves were unaware on how much money their movies were making. Okay, now on to the short itself. With Disorder in the Court, it's one of my favorites with Curly, mainly for stuff like this. Curly was really good at improvising. Directors Jewel White and Edward Burns were very good on letting Curly just really go with it. If there was a moment in the script, and there were a lot of moments in scripts where the script would just state, you know, Stooges slapping or a Curly moment. So they would just let the camera roll and let the Stooges improvise. And with Curly's moments, you know, they would let the camera go for several minutes and just let Curly just, you know, come up with the best he could do. And Curly was a real comic genius, which said a lot for him because he had no formal acting training. You can't really tell because he's actually a really good actor. But with no formal acting training, it was really a surprise to a lot of directors and everyone that worked with him and how natural comedy came to him.
He's talking pig Latin. I don't know what he's saying.
I love that with the swearing.
No, but I know all the words.
He's asking you if you'll swear to tell the truth.
Truth is stranger than fiction, Judgy Wudgy.
Kindly address this court as your honor. And take
one thing I haven't mentioned yet. These are all the shorts we're going to be looking at are all colorized, because I really liked the colorized versions of these. I think they're really unique looking. To make these old shorts colorized, there's a certain color palette that you use on computers that helps you do this. I forget what it's called. It's now available publicly, I think. When they colorized a couple of these shorts, just for the record, Disorder in the Court, Brideless Grooms, Malice in the Palace, and Sing a Song About Six Pants are all public domain shorts. For some reason, the rights to those 4 shorts got dropped, and they were left in public domain, and that's the reason why these shorts were the first to be colorized. Even more shorts got colorized later on by Sony. But the colorization, not all of it is accurate. With the color palette, you can color however way you want. Like, I think some of the skin tones might be a bit off. The Stooges are closer to their skin tone, like they were in real life. But the suits are completely off, I think. I think with the color palette, they just made the suit colors the way they wanted. Like, to fit the Stooges' personalities. Like, everyone around them, the suits are fairly accurate. They're darker colors. They look natural. The Stooges' colors are more to fit their personalities. Like, Curly's is bright yellow. Moe's is light blue. And Larry, you can't really tell at first until a very brief close-up of it when he's playing the violin, but his suit is green. It's a very dark green. I'm just noticing this now. The jurors are also different colored suits, too.
Kindly speak English and drop the vernacular.
Vernacular?
Now, short subjects were always low budget. There was never a big budget short subject film. The way short subjects worked, despite what people might think, a lot of people thought, these sets were built specifically for the shorts. They weren't. Because of limited budget, they had to go on whatever sets were available to them or what the studio was willing to give them. Like, this court set was taken from another movie. I forget what movie it was from. It was taken from another movie. It was given to the short subjects department, and they wrote the script based on that court set. So they made a court short. The scripts were written at a very, very quick pace because of the limitations of the budget. And, with the early Three Stooges shorts, probably the first half of the Stooges existence, with Curly, and the first few years with Shemp, the scripts were written in great detail. They had great writers with them. Felix Adler was a great writer too. He's faced some scrutiny from fans because of the later shorts when everything. It's not all Felix Adler's fault. Felix Adler had been with the Stooges for almost their entire tenure with Columbia, and he's a really talented writer, but when the budget got cut, so did the shooting schedule, so he had to write scripts at a very quick pace, which is why a lot of the shorts, especially with Joe Besser, were all primarily remakes. Now, when people say, the Stooges' salary never changed, it wasn't like, they were completely broke. They made about, trying to think here, it's an estimated $8,000 per film, and they did 8 or 9 films a year, besides 1945, which only had 5 due to Curly's declining health. They took time for Curly to rest, so it was only 5 for 1945.
I'll sue you for this.
So it's estimated about $8,000 per film, which might not seem like a lot for an actor today, but it's the equivalent of $130,000 today. So they were making actually a great deal of money. However, the reason why it's viewed as being such a short salary is because the Stooges were so popular. You would think, because of their popularity and how much money they were bringing for Columbia, that Harry Cohn would have been at least generous with the pay scale with them and had made them just as rich as their opponents in the short subject world, which was Laurel and Hardy and the Marx Brothers. But you know, that never came to be, and it's really sad. That way the Stooges didn't become, like, really, you know, rich until the 1960s, which was towards their retirement, and that's really very sad. That whole instrument segment was really interesting because all the Stooges were really great instrument players, mainly coming from the years of vaudeville. Larry was always a great violinist, having played it from a very young age. So they really were multi-talented, and that's really cool. Now, the Stooges were a very unique short subject as we watched this scene with Mo just crushing Curly's head. They were unique because usually the difference between them, Laurel and Hardy, and the Marx Brothers is that the Stooges' jokes, you know, they moved from one joke to the other. There was no long joke. You know, it was all really short jokes. They didn't really have a joke that would work well, like, for several minutes. Laurel and Hardy could work comedy and do a joke that would, like, play out for, like, several minutes. But the Stooges were more quick on the jokes. They didn't really have a gag that would work well for long periods of time, which is why Mo himself said that, you know, that was the reason why the Stooges wouldn't work in feature film anyways. They were more designed for short subject.
So I'm a mule. Pull the trigger. Never fear, it's not loaded.
And really, you know, you look at the short subjects. If you were to compare these early films to the last few films that the Stooges made with Joe Besser, you just see the acting go completely downhill. Because there weren't a lot of great actors still attached to the short subjects department at that point. The Stooges were the only popular short subject film left in that department in 1955 all the way till 1959. The market for the short subjects had dried up so much that other studios had gotten out of it.
There you are, boss. You was called to be a witness, wasn't you? Certainly. So was you. What are you butting in for? You're supposed to be a good one, ain't you? Well, ain't I? And what are you disturbing the court for?
And with this colorization short, you'll notice that they actually put sound effects on the eye poke, which is not accurate. From 1934 until about 1945, there was no sound effect for that particular joke. The eye poke didn't have a sound effect made for it. They added it into the colorization ones, and you can tell it was added in too because it's not as perfectly timed with the sound as the other ones.
Throw that gum away. Look, I got rid of it.
And one of very few negatives about these early shorts with Curly, Mo, and Larry is that there wasn't much for Larry to do. You know, but he had his standout moments like this when he's acting like Tarzan in the court. But besides that, you know, Larry during Curly's Curly's tenure with the Stooges, Larry really had nothing to do besides be a background Stooge in a way. And he really only had two shorts during Curly's tenure where it was focused around him, and that was their very first short, Woman Haters, and I believe their third or fourth to last with Curly, which was Idiots Deluxe, I think it was called. Oh no, it was Three Lone Wolves. That was it. That's a cool gag, and you'll notice a continuity error coming up here. The jury in the background is fully awake. They haven't been knocked out. But watch the next shot with Mo pulling Curly. They're all knocked out. Look at that.
Grab your ear. Come on.
I believe that was actually with Larry hitting the cage, I believe that shot of him hitting the cage was not in the original short. Or at least the televised version of it. The televised version never included that one shot for some reason. I think it was because they needed to make it a perfect time for television so they could add the commercials and all that stuff in. And they eliminated that one shot just to shorten it up by a few seconds. I don't know why they did that. Now, stunts like this with the hose, that's really tough to do because that hose, has, for the looks of it, actually has a lot of power to it. And that was a lot of things, stuff like the pie fights and all that stuff. Stuff like that actually looked like it really hurt. Because, those pies are being thrown at them. It looks like 100 miles an hour. And that hose, is hitting everyone in sight. So that couldn't have been very comfortable.
Shut that off. Wait a minute, I'll have to try and knock this.
Now, obviously, they're not going to hit a real bird with that. It's a bird on it was a little puppeteered bird on a string.
Get this. Who killed Craig Robin? I killed Craig Robin. And not with my little bow and arrow. Don't try to find me as I'm shuffling.
And I know I mainly talked about the behind-the-scenes stuff with the Stooges in this commentary. I'll get a little bit more on the episodes with Bride the Groom and Malice in the Palace. Those are two of my favorites. Love this gag coming up with the hose.
Now, ready? Hold it.
But yeah, that's the first commentary on the Stooges. Let's move on to Brideless Groom.